Hi, how are you doing? And welcome to another Ministry in the Music. I'm sorry. Today we are going to talk about changing up your bass. All about that bass, right? Okay, you know, for a lot of the beginners when we learn to play, we always play pretty straightforward where we play a chord and we'll put the root of the chord in a bass. That works great, like if you're playing hymns and things of that nature. But you know, if you want to spice up your music a little bit, experiment with different things, different notes in the bass. That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, as you always know, whenever I do my Ministry in the Music, I always like to do a quick review of the scales. Why? Because many times we don't practice our scales. But the scale is the basic building block of all of our music. So if we look at the key of C, which I always kind of play in for practice and for teaching, for instructional purposes, if you look at the 7 notes in the key of C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and you're back to C. That is 1 octave, okay? And if you remember, we can put a number to each one of those. C, B1, D2, E3, F4, G5, A6, B7, and we're back to C, which is 1, or they call it the 8 or 1. Now, remember that B, the 7th, because we're going to play around with that 7th a little bit today, okay? So, like I say, now, each of those chords have a name. So we got a number, we got a scale, we got a chord, and they have a name. For instance, in the key of C, where we're at, if I play the 1, which is a C, which would be C, E, G, that is a C major. The 2, which is D, F, A, D minor, and as we go up the scale chromatically, E minor, E, G, B. The 4 is an F major. The 5 is a G major. The 6, A, C, E, is a what? You got it, A minor. The 7th is a diminished. Don't worry about that today. If you want to know about that, go back to one of my earlier videos. We'll talk about that. We've discussed that. And then back to the C. So you see each number, scale, chord, and then the chord type. And you know, and this works in any scale, any major scale. The 1 is major, the 2 is minor, the 3 is minor, the 4 is major, the 5 is major, the 6 is minor, the 7th is diminished, and you're back to the 1 again. Like I said before, we're going to talk about that 7th note, the B. We're in the key of C, so that's 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, if I play a C chord, C, E, G, C, E, G, then I move my thumb down and play that B. That gives me a C major 7th chord. Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. Now if I move it down one more time, that gives me a C 7th. So basically I'm just changing that lower note. And I can also put that in the bass. So that's what we're gonna play around with a little bit, is moving things around in the bass. So we're gonna go over a couple of songs. Well, one song, I think, just one. And the chords you're going to use in this song is on the chart that you see up here. And if you look at the chord annotations, you see I have a C with a slash with an E underneath. What that means is that it is a C chord, but I have an E note in the bass. Got it? C, E, G chord, E in the bass. Same thing with F. I can play an F chord, F, bass C, and I'm gonna put an A in the bass, which is what? The 3rd. That's what we call the 3rd. Because why? If I started F being 1, 2, 3. So the 3rd note of the chord is now, of the scale is now in the bass. So you can change up the bass and do lots of things. You can put the 7th if you like in the bass. Okay, hear that? So what it does, it adds some flavor, it adds some texture, it adds some color to your music. Here, let me give an example. If I just play a regular, just a 1, 3, 5 chord progression, C to an F to a G and a C. like I've always said, you can play 80% of your hymns just with those 3 chords. But it's very, very straight, very methodical. If I want to kind of give it a little extra flavor, let's change that bass up a little bit. Let's put the 3rd in each one of those chords. So instead of playing a C bass with the C chord, I'm going to play an E. And when I go to the F, I'm going to put an A in the bass. G chord, B in the bass. And back to the C. Let's do it one more time. So you see, it just brightens your music up a little bit, and it makes it move, because what happens when you put that 3rd in the bass, you're right there next to the 4th or the chords you're going to go to. So it really makes your playing a lot easier, because you're already where you need to go to for the next chord, for the next note. Now, what we're going to talk about, what song we're going to talk about today to use as an example for this. This is a song that I really love. If you go in the book of Revelations, I know, you're scared of the book of Revelations. Everybody's scared to read the book of Revelations, because you got damnation, you got fire, you got brimstone, you got pestilence. But you know, on the flip side of that, Revelations is one of the most beautiful books in the Bible that talks about heaven. It talks about praise. There's more praise, worship, and it gives us a panoramic view of life with the Father. And isn't that our goal? Isn't that what we're striving for? To be in the presence of God. But anyway, when you look in the book of Revelations, this song, the lyrics was pretty much taken kind of straight out of the book of Revelations. And it talked about the elders, 24 elders kneeling before God, and how the angels and how they all did everything around the throne was giving him glory and singing hallelujah, salvation and glory, honor and power unto the Lord our God. For the Lord our God is what? Almighty. And the Lord our God is omnipotent. The Lord our God, he is wonderful. A beautiful song, beautiful song. It's like an anthem. If you're not familiar with it, it's been around for a while. But this is kind of how it goes. But if you look at our chord structure, you see a lot of the chords, we're playing a different note in the bass. For instance, even the very first chord we start on is a C chord, but we put the 7th. Remember that 7th? We put the B flat in the bass. And then we go from there to the second chord, which is an F with an A in the bass. Something else we do in this song, we break up the rules. Remember when we first started on our review, we talked about the 3rd being the E, it was the E minor. Well, we're going to play it as an E major. Why? Because it gives some tension. It gives some more dynamics to your music. The great thing about playing music, you learn all these beautiful rules and structure, and then you go out and break them. Yes, right. You go out and break them. Okay, so how does this song go? I'll try to play it for you. Hear that? Oh, I love that chord, that first chord. I've heard people play it and they put the root in the bass and it just takes away the dynamics. Nah, I gotta have that. Hallelujah, salvation and glory, honor and power unto the Lord our God. For the Lord our God is almighty. The Lord our God is omnipotent. The Lord our God, he is wonderful. So you hear that I just love that sound right there. As opposed to if I put just a regular C in the bass. It works. It works. I can play the whole song just with just that. Let's try that. I'm going to put the root in the bass of all my chords. It just doesn't have that same sound as. I love it, love it, love it. Now, I know some of you guys probably know the song, but you know, you're probably saying, what about the next part? Well, you know, the next part of this song, it really doesn't change. It's the same chords. All they do is, instead of using they change from the root of the chord to the first inversion. Instead of playing there, yeah, if you know the song, the altos come in. All praises be to the King of Kings and the Lord our God. He is wonderful. All praises be to the King of Kings and the Lord our God. He is wonderful. Beautiful song. So just a little example of how you can change the notes in your bass and get a different sound. Play around with that. Play around with different notes in the scale to put in your bass. Whether it's the third, whether it's the seventh, it even could be what? The fifth, you know? Doesn't matter. Just play around with it. Have fun with it, okay? Listen, the thing that I always love to say, if you want to get better at this, you got to pray, you got to practice. Stay with it. You know what? He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the church.